The time is at hand.
The elusive dog-like creature attacks livestock, bleeding them dry of blood.
8 to 10 feet tall, shadowy aliens.
The appearance of a mysterious monolith.
Making it rain by zapping clouds.
And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Babylon the Great is fallen, is fallen.
Welcome to In Dark Places. I'm your Huckleberry, Jimbo Fugit. I kind of had my suspicions last week on the show, but the more and more stories I hear, I think my suspicions are probably right. Hurricane Helene ripped through the southeastern United States in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia on September 26th. Hundreds of people have died and thousands are now homeless. I've seen stories about how FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, hasn't really been doing their job. They've been giving flood victims a one-time $750 if they qualify. Meanwhile, all the illegal immigrants in America are getting anywhere from $1,100 to $1,800 a month from FEMA. The U.S. is pouring billions of dollars into Ukraine. The police weren't even letting people go into grocery stores. People are being kicked off their own property for trespassing. The fact checkers keep saying that none of this is true, but I tend to believe the people who are out there witnessing it firsthand, just like those Bigfoot and UFO stories that we read. I believe the witnesses, not the fact checkers. But this mess is just like the Maui fires all over again.
FEMA's here. You know what FEMA just told us? We can't get you a phone. I have no ID. I have no way to pay for food. He has no way to get gas. We're stuck. So we have to sleep in a car that's leaking with the same clothes we've had on since the...
There was a 30-foot wall of water just pushing through Lake Lure all the way down. My house washed away. I had a cat, I had 2 geckos. I lost it all.
It was like by a miracle that we made it. I started to call 911. I could not get through. I called again and I was able to get through. And I said, the water's coming in our house. And they said, get to higher ground. And I was like, okay, we're going in the attic. And we're overwhelmed with calls right now. That's all we can tell you to do. Your adrenaline's pumping. It's like, this is you're saving your life right now. You're doing it.
Canadian politician suggests U.S. could be spraying chemtrails over country. By Tim Banal. Thanks, Tim. A Canadian politician recently raised eyebrows when she told a constituent that the United States could be spraying chemtrails over the country. The surprising suggestion was reportedly made by Alberta Premier Danielle Smith at a town hall held this past Saturday in Edmonton. After fielding residents' questions about routine issues like taxes and health care, things took a weird turn when an individual at the event pressed the politician about chemtrails appearing over the city. Remarkably, Smith replied that she had already asked government officials about the issue and received a rather astounding response. The best I have been able to do is talk to the woman who is responsible for controlling the airspace, Smith said, and she says no one is allowed to go up and spray anything in the air. Her answer was seemingly met with dissatisfaction from residents, as an audible groan could be heard rumbling through the crowd. However, what Smith said next, understandably, spawned headlines. The person told me that if anyone is doing it, it's the United States Department of Defense, the Premier revealed, lamenting that I have some limitations in what I can do in my job. I don't know that I would have much power if that is the case, if the U.S. Department of Defense is spraying us. As one might imagine, Smith's suggestion that there is a clandestine program spraying curious chemical concoctions over our Canadian neighbors did not go over well with officials in the United States. In response, the Pentagon categorically denied such an audacious scenario. This was echoed by NORAD, which also indicated that they are not conducting any flight activities in Canada that involve the spraying of chemicals. Not in Canada, but other places. For her part, Smith did what one might call damage control, as her spokesperson said that she was simply sharing what she has heard from some folks over the summer on the issue, while stressing that she was not saying that she believes the United States is using chemtrails in Alberta. I used to post stuff on Facebook trying to wake people up. I started with pictures of chemtrails and people started unfriending me. Relatives and people I'd known my whole life. I thought it was kind of strange, and then I started asking people why Building 7 fell on 9/11, and I lost a few more friends. Then I started posting stuff about the Rona and its shots. People still won't talk to me after that one. It's like I was talking about last week. People are wired different these days. They don't know how to just disagree with someone. They get mad and never speak to them again. They're basically just out for blood. U.S. Representative for Georgia, Marjorie Greene, spoke after Hurricane Helene about weather manipulation, and the mainstream media had a field day with that. They made fun of her and called her a crazy conspiracy theorist. And then all their viewers went along with that. She's so crazy. People can't control the weather. Well, they can. They've been doing it for a long time. Cloud seeding is a type of weather modification that aims to change the amount or type of precipitation, mitigate hail, or dispense fog. The usual objective is to increase rain or snow, either in its own sake or to prevent precipitation from occurring in days afterward. Cloud seeding is undertaken by dispersing substances into the air that serve as cloud condensation or ice nuclei. Common agents include silver iodide, potassium iodide, and dry ice, with hygroscopic materials like table salt gaining popularity due to their ability to attract moisture. Techniques vary from static seeding, which encourages ice particles formation in supercooled clouds to increase precipitation, to dynamic seeding, designed to enhance convective cloud development through the release of latent heat. Weather warfare is the use of weather modification techniques, such as cloud seeding for military purposes. Prior to the Environmental Modification Convention signed in Geneva in 1977, the United States used weather warfare in the Vietnam War. Operation Popeye saw the use of cloud seeding over the Ho Chi Minh Trail. It was hoped that the increased rainfall would reduce the rate of infiltration down the trail. This wasn't anything new, though. In the United States, as early as 1839, newspaper archives tell of people with serious and creative ideas on how to make it rain. In 1957, the President's Advisory Committee on Weather Control explicitly recognized the military potential of weather modification, warning in their report that it could become a more important weapon than the atom bomb. On May 27, 1962, then President Lyndon Baines Johnson famously said, "The opportunity is great, the resources unlimited. A good way is the predicate in the foundation for the development of a weather satellite that will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather." Then he got a little snarky and he declared, "He who controls the weather will control the world." And that's exactly what these people want to do. They're playing God, creating weather to suit the needs of their climate change agenda. These guys have everyone on the planet brainwashed into thinking that people are bad and that the planet is dying. These guys ever read a Bible in their lives? The world doesn't end because of climate change. This stuff goes way back. Project Cirrus, which was initiated on February 28, 1947, was believed to be the first official attempt to modify a hurricane, and was run by General Electric, of all people, with the support of the U.S. military. On October 13, 1947, Project Cirrus targeted a hurricane heading out to sea. Approximately 180 pounds of dry ice was dropped into the clouds. The crew then reported a pronounced modification of the cloud deck, and the hurricane abruptly changed direction and made landfall near Savannah, Georgia. The project was about learning how to weaponize the weather and reverse the course of a hurricane.
So my uncle has lived in St. Pete, Florida for his entire adult life. So quite some time. He's 73 years old. Born and raised in Michigan, where I'm at, blue collar dude. My whole family is a little rednecky. Call us whatever you want. We're good, hardworking people. And he has been too his whole life. He actually worked for the city in public transit for 20 years. So giving back, doing all he can, just making his way in the world. Home was completely destroyed in Helene. He had evacuated, did what he was supposed to do. He's up in a hotel and paying for the hotel himself. So he comes back to his home and it's gutted. Basically, all of his possessions are gone. The home is uninhabitable. So he obviously can't stay there. FEMA comes in. So they tell him it'll be 8 to 10 business days before you hear anything. We're going to go back and look at everything. We'll let you know. All right, cool. He gets an email this morning with the results of what FEMA is going to give to him. We'll get to that in a second. First, I went back and did a little digging on FEMA. But in 2024, FEMA's budget was $37 billion. And they requested additional fundage before Helene. They requested it before Helene. So I also learned FEMA's authorized to grant an individual up to $42,500 for your home loss, and an additional $42,500 for other incidentals. So what is that, 85 grand per person? I did a little bit more digging. Where did FEMA's money go? Went to 5 major areas: Arizona, Texas, New York City, New Mexico, and Chicago, which all happen to be border or sanctuary. A lot went to Colorado too. There was I think $1 million went to Denver, but Maricopa County in Arizona, $11 million. Pima County in Arizona, $28 million. I think New York City was right in that 27, 28-ish kind of million situation, and Chicago was way up there too. Go on the site, check it out. The numbers are there. It's really easy to find. So they've spent a lot of money on non-citizens. They have obviously been very well-funded non-American citizens. Again, my uncle, and a lifelong American citizen, good, hardworking, salt-of-the-earth kind of fella. Guess how much they're going to give him? $2,600. Yeah. An American citizen is worth $2,600 to our government.
I was at work on August 1st on my lunch, and I heard a loud helicopter coming. And I thought, well, that's neat. And kind of looking in the direction where it was coming from. And there was 2 helicopters. They were both black, no markings on the helicopters, and the windows were black as well, tinted. And they were coming from the northeast and going in a straight line toward the southeast. I immediately thought that they were probably going after a UFO or something, because unmarked helicopters. And I sat there a couple more minutes, and I heard another one coming. And I thought, well, that'd be neat if I can get it on video. So I got out of the car and started recording with my phone. And this third one went in a different line. He was going toward the west. Kind of flew right over top of where I was sitting at in the car. I think he saw me. And he put on a little show for me because he knew I was recording him. He was going toward the west, flew over me and on past me there a little. Then he made a big U-turn and he went off toward the north, kind of increasing his speed, going a little faster. So I don't know what that was about. My buddy James, shout out James, thought that they were probably search and rescue helicopters. I was thinking they were chasing UFOs. But that third one kind of made me wonder. It was kind of weird. And then I saw this video.
We're hearing reports of up to 4,000 body bags that have been ordered. They're still finding bodies in trees, in cars, all over the place. They don't have power. This was last night, where 2 black helicopters came in at a donation center in western North Carolina, where they had lined up supplies. These helicopters came in and just on purpose whipped, using, hung over this particular area, flies into the area and uses rotor washes and destroys all of the stuff, and then takes off, disappears. They've been trying to find out who these helicopters were. They can't find out. They came in and destroyed the supplies and then took off. It's hard not to feel like we're all being played right now.
I saw that 4 tornadoes touched down in the mountains of North Carolina during Helene. That doesn't happen with natural weather. There was a tornado near here back in 2012, and tornadoes can't get in these mountains. These guys were playing around with the weather. But who are they? They're a group of unelected bureaucrats, people like Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab, a very small percentage of people who think they can tell the rest of the world what to do.
Announced that the United States will provide more than $1.5 billion to address Ukraine's humanitarian and energy needs.
And the federal relief and assistance that we have been providing has included FEMA providing $750.
I don't think the American government or any other country's government has a lot to do with these situations. There's some outside source like NATO pulling the strings. The government's actions during these weather events tells me that they're fully aware of the plan. They try to put up every kind of obstacle imaginable to stop citizens from helping. I saw where FEMA has the airports full of their helicopters and planes so they can stop private helicopters from landing there, bringing supplies. Just sitting there in the way. They have truckloads of supplies sitting there, and they're not letting the victims have anything. They're probably transporting it all to California and Texas so they can give it to all the illegal immigrants crossing the border. That's the kind of people they are. So why North Carolina? What would these guys ever do to anyone? Well, it turns out there's a big lithium base under North Carolina. It's believed that there's probably the biggest lithium deposits in the whole world right there under North Carolina, just waiting to be mined out. They already tried that, and the residents there voted against it, so they had to take other actions. We'll force them to leave, because most of those guys didn't have flood insurance or anything. So now they're probably just going to leave the area, and then the government will have full control of that lithium.
Wouldn't it be crazy if one of the largest lithium deposits in the world was right outside of Asheville, North Carolina? Wouldn't it be crazy if the largest lithium mining company in the world, 3 days before the flood began, submitted the permits for their mine right outside of Asheville, North Carolina? Wouldn't it be crazy if the mining company was just given $250 million in grants to help with construction of their mine right outside of Asheville, North Carolina? Wouldn't it be crazy if less than a month before the flood started, BlackRock acquired 2.2 million shares of stock in that mining company? That's crazy. Wouldn't it be crazy if the residents that opposed the mine had their homes and properties destroyed? That would never happen, though. I'm sure they wouldn't take things that far.
Since the guys on TikTok always ruin good videos by putting that stupid horror theme in their videos, I don't get it. But yeah, is anybody fact-checking this stuff? It's all true. You may be wondering, well, if they can control the weather, then why don't they make it rain? Stop these raging wildfires. They can't do that because they would be held accountable then. People would see that the fires could have been stopped at any time. So instead they just try to keep their weather modification practices a big secret. They try to make it sound like that anyone who says they can control the weather is crazy. And besides, I've seen plenty of videos that suggest that they're the ones that are setting the fires to begin with, and they blame it on climate change. Climate change. That guy's everywhere. Here in America, I think we're going to see a lot more of this kind of crap in the next few weeks because it's almost election time. While I was putting this episode together, there was another unprecedented hurricane, Milton, that struck Florida. I guess hurricanes are kind of common in October, but to me it just seems odd because it's fall time and the water's cooling down. You wouldn't think there would be Category 4 and Category 5 hurricanes in fall cold water. I don't know. But anyway, kind of a different sort of show this week. I had some venting I needed to do. But that's about all the show for this week. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again right here next week. Be careful out there, and God bless.